Welcome to Beyond the Political Spin, your weekly dose of politics, economics, common sense, and things that matter. No lefties, no political correctness, no agenda, no bullshit, and absolutely no political spin. Here's your last line of defence for common sense. Adrian Aiello, Vince Lochisano, and Richard Stockman.
Well, hello. Here we go. Here we go.
Sorry, Adrian, hang on.
For those... for those that have listened to the previous episodes, you'd understand what that's about. The work that goes into my editing because of Vince's slurping, chewing, banging on the table, ruffling of the keys.
Ruffling papers.
So he's been lectured to this morning.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to our newly elected councillor,
Richard Stockman.
at the Nillumbik Council, Richard Stockman.
Good morning,
well done,
Vince.
mate.
Good morning, Ace.
It's great effort, Rich.
I believe there's been a scandal at the
a lot of
Nillumbik Council.
campaigning.
There's been a lot of invalid ballots that have been found. People bringing in crates of ballots with Richard's name on it. No other candidate was on the actual ballot. It was just him.
I heard there was
They stamped them and backdated the ballot.
some ballots burnt down at the Blue Lake.
Richard is sponsored by the newly elected Biden government from the USA.
Hey, when we signed up, we said we couldn't attack right-wingers. And you know I'm right-wing. I don't sound like it sometimes, but I am.
But you are,
I'm
you
as
are.
right-wing as they go. And it's today's about what are we going to do, Ace, right off the bat?
Well, right off the bat, I think we have to thank Victorians and congratulate Victorians on a job well done. I think it's us that deserved
10 days in a row today.
10 days in a row, and I think that's
Of 0 cases and 0 deaths.
correct. And I think it's absolutely our work that has achieved that. We've sacrificed so much throughout the year. We haven't seen family for months on end. Yesterday we saw the restrictions on movement be lifted, which is fantastic. So we can now spread our wings a little bit further and visit family that may not be so close. So it's a good feeling. It certainly is a good feeling. And to Victoria, well, bloody done.
Well, with Victoria too.
And we're all celebrating by wearing a mask on a 30-degree day today because we've still got the mask rule in place. And forgive me for being a bit cynical, but this rotten bastard will not let go of control to some extent, will he?
No,
He just will not let go.
I know we've talked about Victoria a lot, but it's all around the world, isn't it? News, everyone's watching, has been watching us.
Absolutely.
And what we've been through, it's been absolutely massive.
It's all right, it's just a bit of coronavirus, sorry. I'm only joking.
Yeah, no, it has been huge around the world. But yeah, we have faced it quite a little bit more extensively here in Victoria. So I think people have looked at us from around the world as well. And I know I've got friends in America that they know exactly what's going on here, and they've been looking at us for some months now and cannot believe the measures that, we've endured here. So, all in all, again, I'm big on business, and I think everyone's gotten that drift by now, but my heart really breaks for those that cannot open the doors. Right? No. The ones that will never open the doors again.
Oh,
right?
because they just couldn't hang on.
This is again what we need to realise and still make these people accountable, right? Because
The cost.
there was a reason why this happened. We all know that. We've covered it many times. But, I want everyone to get out there and bloody just have fun, be normal, let the children run wild a little bit. And my kids, like, it's fantastic. You get to go out there. That we went to dinner a couple of times. Like, bloody hell, it's good. Right? And it's not even for me. Just looking at their faces when everything seems normal all of a sudden.
Yep.
Right? You can
Yep.
get close to people and all that. It's fantastic.
Smiles are back on faces.
I've always got business in the back of my mind because I know how important it is to the economy and it is to Australia. And I've got a few friends that I know that have kind of lost everything over the last 8 months, and they'll never open their doors again. Couple of renting now; they've had to sell their homes, and they've gone into rental properties, and they're good friends of mine. So it's those people that I feel like they've almost been forgotten about, right? But it's so important that we get out there and support business because they've done it tough for so long, and the ones that are opening, especially in the hospitality industry, I bet my balls on it, mate. Many of them are hanging on by a thread. right? They've suffered for so long. Get out there and support them.
Well, can I just make one point about that? The highest rents that people pay are in the city, the Melbourne CBD,
Absolutely.
and city fringe suburbs,
Yep.
your Carlton,
Yep.
Fitzroy, Collingwood,
Brunswick.
South Bank, South Melbourne,
Yep.
etc.
Well, it's even as far as Northcote and all that now.
Well, even, Brunswick, Northcote, etc. Now, those are the businesses. I'll just talk about the CBD. I really feel for the hospitality industry, all of those restaurants, cafes, bars, nightclubs, etc., that are allowed to open now, but in very restricted circumstances, they are suffering so much, and yet because there is a rule that still says if you can work at home, you must stay at home.
Yeah.
There is hardly any population in the CBD.
Yeah, correct. It's only the residents.
Yeah, it's only the people that live there.
Yep.
But a lot of these businesses don't trade when those people come home. They're actually open 9 till 5 or 9 till 5:30. Now, they are bleeding because there's hardly any office workers going into the CBD.
Yep.
So even when they're extending how many people you can have inside and outside, a lot of
there's
these
no one
people are saying, well, but there's nobody here.
Yeah.
Because these workers, we rely on them to actually come into our cafes and restaurants, etc.
Yeah, well,
And there's hardly anyone going into
in
them.
business hours, that's who makes up their business. It's the office workers, with their lunch meetings and things like that. That's what their business is during the day. At night, obviously, we can travel now. That's a different story. But if you've got a business in the city and you're paying 10, 20 grand a month in rent, you're not going to rely on a fucking
I
dinner,
guess what
are
I'm
you?
saying is the average office worker that might go into the city and spend $10 or $15 a day on lunch,
Yeah.
right? They're not doing that now. They're
they're
staying at home and they're making their own lunch.
Yep. Yep.
Or at best, they might be going to the local suburban cafe and buying a coffee
correct.
over there.
Yeah.
If it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. So people that should take this Victoria as an example. No matter where you are in the world, where you are in Australia, this can happen absolutely anywhere.
Yep.
And I think that's really, really important that we learn from things. Even with this pandemic, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, yeah. We
could have been better planned, and we weren't. We weren't very planned. We won't go into the pandemic too much more, but it's good to learn from things.
Yeah, yep.
And this is we'll talk about it through this show too, about learning from things. I think that's so important.
Well, you know what worries me? At a press conference, Daniel Andrews, when he was asked about had they learnt the lessons from mistakes gone by, he said, look, I don't look back. I'm only looking forward.
Yeah, well,
Which tells me we're not interested in learning from our mistakes.
Yep.
We're only interested in what's coming up. And in fact,
that's clear though, because he went back to private security after the inquiries, all the hotel debacle, right? The quarantine debacle.
Mm-hmm.
Only weeks ago he was still using private security. So it's clear. It's clear that they did not.
And I noticed
learn lessons.
on Peter Credlin's show last night on Sky News, she said, if you think that Melbourne and Victoria is equipped to handle a third outbreak, she said, let me tell you, it's not a case of if it's going to happen, it's a case of when, because still Victoria is not properly equipped with all of the things that they need, with contact tracing, et cetera, and they have not learnt the lessons from the last 8 months.
Well, there's no doubt. That's why we're in lockdown for so long. It's not because of,
So he's trying to eliminate it.
Yeah, it's
eradicate it.
It's not because of the requirement or the urgent need to get rid of it, the health advice. No. It's because he's shit fucking scared that a third wave will break him down and expose him, because still after 8 months, their contact tracing is a fucking debacle.
Yep.
We're 8 months into this pandemic. Now, lockdowns around the world, right? Mm-hmm. They were the advice given from all the expert organisations and experts themselves was that lockdowns were only to be used as a temporary measure for the governments to get equipped and ready to then deal with the situation, the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Right? They were never to be in place long term, because it was known very early that the destruction would cause to an economy would be absolutely cataclysmic.
Yep.
The mental health issues that it would then create, which it has, right, which they refuse to speak about, right? But so many of these issues, and it was known. But yet Victoria places in lockdown for almost a year.
Did you see the guy that runs the World Health Organization? What's his name? Tedros. He came out and said, we don't recommend lockdowns.
Yep.
And do you know what Brett Sutton, the Victorian Chief Health Officer, said to that? You said that doesn't apply to us down here.
Yeah, of course not.
No. Anyway,
course
enough on that. We've said enough about the Victorian situation.
Yes.
I believe there's a lot more to come.
Yep.
That's all I'll say.
No
and
doubt.
things will come out in the next few
No
weeks.
doubt. That wouldn't have anything to do with the Torquay hotel there that received $500,000 without any services.
Well, that not
undertaken.
only did they get 500,000, they
Jesus
were put into
Christ.
liquidation
Yeah.
with debts of over $1 billion, and they were paid
Unbelievable.
$500,000 for doing nothing.
Unbelievable.
Of taxpayers' money. That just goes to show you how efficient, how diligent,
Yep.
and how incredibly professional this Victorian state government is under Daniel Andrews.
Just talking about that one last thing. is,
What a bloody disgrace.
This is off the record, or it's kind of on the record. But just a couple of days ago, St Andrew's pub fined $100,000.
Where St Andrews?
St Andrews.
St Andrew's pub
Whereabouts?
in St Andrews.
St Andrews.
No, but is this in Rye down that way?
No, just here.
Oh, St Andrews.
Not St Andrews Beach.
I was thinking that's what I was clarifying. St.
Northern
Andrews Beach.
suburbs of Melbourne.
Oh,
St
right,
Andrews fined $100,000. Apparently, they broke the rules of having too many people there.
Yep.
But it's sort of hard to administer. But they're administering that. Someone was watching him.
Well, it looks like it's great to see that the Victorian police is going after all of the real, hardened criminals in society.
Yeah, that's exactly right. At a time with 11 days of
Miserable
zero cases,
bastards.
isn't it?
They're
Real penny.
another farce, the Victorian police farce.
Well, they have been
that have lost
for-
the confidence of nearly everybody I know.
Yep. I've encountered some myself over the last few months, and they're doing their job quite well. So I don't want to generalise, but there are a few there flexing their muscle, and it's giving Victoria and the police force a very, very bad image.
But
That's enough of
by the
Victoria, I
way,
think, for now.
They were nice and gentle with the climate change protest last Friday. You'll
were very
You'll be
gentle.
pleased to know that, Richard. Last Friday in the city,
Yes.
there wasn't any capsicum spray sprayed on
No,
anybody.
there was nothing.
There was a nice peaceful protest and a rally there for climate change.
Yep.
But the minute you go and protest about Daniel Andrews and his draconian lockdown laws,
Yep, you'll get bashed.
They will come over with the riot gear. They will
Yep.
spray you. They will do all sorts of shit.
And just
like
for anyone listening, jump onto RV Yemeni's Facebook page. He actually,
RT News as well.
yep, RT News. He jumped on, he followed that climate change protest.
Yep.
He was there with his microphone, and
Doing his job as a
I'll
journalist.
tell you now, the intelligence of these young socialists
Yep.
who are just caught up in the wind of this toss, right? That's what it is.
Yep.
Mate, the responses they gave to him would make you cringe. Even if you support this shit,
Yeah.
right?
You'd be saying,
Jump on the
idiots.
page and have a look at his interviews or his little video that he did speaking to some of these people that were protesting. I'll tell you what.
They got no idea what they're actually
No, they
protesting
don't.
for.
He asked the question to them straight out,
Yep.
right? And, no fucking idea, mate, right? That is the intellect of these fucking Muppets. I cannot stand it.
But you're right, Ace. People can't be people. You can't be free. You can't even joke about it. Like that climate change down here in Melbourne would be great if we have that weather like Queensland down here.
that's
You
right.
can't say that even if it was a joke, But talking about Queensland though, there's a big election that happened just
Yes,
really
Rich.
quickly.
Yes, that was
Shouldn't have happened.
just
Queensland.
over a week ago now.
Well, they've forgotten what the Queensland government was like before, haven't they? So the voters.
Yep.
You know what? They've got what they deserve. Another 4 years or 3 years of Palaszczuk government.
Yep.
I don't think she had a lot of opposition in the end because it's been proven that the Liberal National Party, even though it didn't actually lose ground, it actually picked up a little bit of vote overall, didn't win any additional seats and in fact lost a couple in the Sunshine Coast.
Yep.
Most of the Labor gains in that election were because of a massive drop in One Nation votes.
Yes,
Now,
correct.
traditionally, these are elderly people who, or I guess the sort of 60-plus
Yep.
age bracket
that hold their
that
traditional values.
have voted for Pauline Hanson at the previous election.
Yep.
Now, she got enormous numbers at the previous election, so
Well, because
to
she
expect
does-
her to have hold that sort of percentage
Yeah.
was unrealistic. And by the way, I made the comment at the last podcast we did that she's been missing in action a bit during this election campaign. It showed because her vote dropped away significantly. But instead of going to the Liberal National Party, which you would think would be the logical next step down from One Nation, They actually supported Palaszczuk
yeah.
because she played the politics. I'm here to keep you safe. A lot of that elderly population would have been absolutely
Scared to death.
scared to
Yep.
death about the virus because the Labor Party frightened the hell out of everyone about the virus.
Yep.
And so
Well, they don't want to let anyone in.
and so
that's where she got
it was
the...
quite okay for them to say, hey, I'm with you, Anastasia. You
Yep.
want to keep us safe from the virus and stop
Close us off from the country.
stop all these Mexicans from coming in from down south? That's fine by us. We'll vote for you. And that's what happened.
But it was smart campaigning, and we're going to
It
talk
was.
about council elections too. And smart campaigning is important because I've said to you guys too, you've got to be in it to win it, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
But what the Liberal Party and
I
National Party said was the right thing, though. This is what annoys me is that Palaszczuk played the politics better than the Liberal Party.
They always do, though.
right?
Vince. The left.
But it wasn't the right thing to do by the state. Okay, the state suffered immeasurably in terms of business,
But is it ever?
tourism, hospitality, just absolutely shattered throughout Queensland. You've got no idea
Vince.
how much damage has been done to that economy.
If it hasn't come to your attention through this pandemic, because one thing that has to me is that the general population that live around us and breathe air around me are
very
fucking stupid.
can be
No, there's
easily
no other. There
manipulated.
is no other fucking word. There is no way
Manipulated.
to be nice about it. They're dumb as dog shit. Okay, the one thing I've learned through this whole pandemic since COVID-19 started is people are stupid. I'm not just talking about you being dumb and a dickhead, right? I mean stupid, the actual definition of stupid. Too simple to do your own research and find your own information. Too stupid to make your own decision. Everywhere I go, people I know, people that I thought had some intellect, they're fucking dumb, Vince, all right?
But this
and
is
they're
why-
eating them alive.
This is why the PR guy that works for Daniel Andrews, who was paid $2 million recently of taxpayers' money, and Daniel Andrews will not release the documentation because he says it's cabinet in confidence documentation, okay, which is bullshit. If we've paid for it, we should be able to see it. On his website, it talks about public opinion, and he used words along the lines of, these are not the exact words on his website, but basically that it can be massaged, it can be changed, it can be manipulated,
Yeah,
it can be,
correct.
you know, basically you can brainwash the public
Yep.
to think what you want it to think.
And they do.
I think that's what he's basically
They
trying
do
to say.
exactly do that. And what does that say? That comment, all right, forget about the
And
corruption.
that's why Andrews paid $2 million for him to investigate
Yes.
how the Victorian people think.
But forget about the alert or the alarm bells that ring when you hear that in terms of the corruption that must be going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Behind that, what does that say about the intellect of the people?
Oh, but Adrian, we don't have a go at the intellect of the people. And the only reason I say
No, but we
that-
do because
All
this
right.
runs into what our
wouldn't say
parents
all
teach
people.
us.
It's not all
This
people.
runs into what our teachers are teaching
In
us
fairness,
at school.
it's not
right?
all people.
Yes.
It might be half the population or a bit more than half the population.
Well,
but
Yeah, it's not all. I've got some.
All
I've
right,
got-
but you look at your kids, right? Your kids are smarter than I was going to say your parents' kids. That's you know. Well, no, your kids are smarter than our generation's kids from way above, you know. Every year, the kids are smarter and smarter. They're smart kids. But
are they?
Yes, they are. They're smart kids, aren't they? Kids
Well-
are smarter and smarter when they're younger.
But the academic results don't show that.
Well, which depends. It's a broad range. We just had maths and we just had chemistry and a few things. Now they've got everything. So they've got so much going on and they're advertised to every
well,
second
they
of the
can't
day.
read and write, but they can certainly play on a computer.
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
That's basically what it comes down to.
they're smart in their own way, but they are. Their brain is no doubt bigger than our brains when we were younger at that age.
Well, it all comes down to how much information you pump into them at such a young age. Their brains are like sponges at a young age.
They are.
But nevertheless, they can even be manipulated.
They can
as
be.
we know.
But that's what I'm saying. They are getting manipulated.
That's why they've got advertising campaigns that are targeted at children for whether it be, you know, lollies, chocolates, breakfast cereals, you name it. They use anything they can to try and manipulate children's minds.
It's a true fact that Liberal government better, But Labor governments campaign better. They campaign really well, and you said they can get dirty. They can use our money. They do whatever they need to, but they campaign better. And it's in 10 years' time, Vince, you'll be saying Queenslander 38 years out of the last 41. That's what you'll be saying.
Yeah.
But we've just got to get a result. So how do we get that result? And we need to be smarter. I think right wingers need to be smarter.
And we've got to. To me, the targeting of their advertising for since I was a kid, since I remember, to me has always been wrong. Right? Like you look at the Labor, and they always really hit hard on employees. Right? They always pump out penalty rates, benefits, and then they're going to increase penalty rates, and they're going to benefit the employee, and all this type of thing. And the average worker out there, well, who are you going to vote for, right? They think, I'm going to get $50 extra in my pocket because I work fucking 8 till 10 on a Friday night, right? All this type of bullshit. But where the Liberals need to come in and attack that, right, is who's paying you? Because a lot of these simple-minded bloody people that, again, they don't have it in them to think outside the box, right?
They can't see past the penalty rate that they're getting.
That's right. And it's almost like they think that the government is going to pay that penalty rate.
Oh, look, I don't disagree. Right. I reckon we are entitled. Like as we're getting more entitled to things, or we think we're more entitled.
Correct, right? Yeah. What that needs to be understood, and this is where the Liberals, they don't attack enough, right? So they are no doubt have always supported small to medium businesses, right? And business in general, always have. But they don't come across that way a lot of the time. A lot of the time they come across as supporting the wealthy, right? But instead of getting that message across,
in fairness, I think that's the way the Labor Party and the Greens Party attack the Liberals and try and get that into everyone's head that they're all for big business and the top end of town.
Because
that's not the case.
No, it's not the case. But that's because the Liberals don't attack the right way. Where I'd be coming into that is who pays you that penalty rate? Because it certainly ain't the Labor Party that's paying that penalty rate, or those that want to increase it.
I agree, right? And I think you coming from a business background, you're the perfect person to do that. But the thing is, can you cut through? Like when we said the media is controlled by the left in a lot of countries, it's hard to cut through.
I think you can. I think the problem with the Liberals has been for so long is there's no one with a scrotum, and there hasn't been for way too long. There's no one with the fortitude to cut through. Right? And that's on the Queensland election. To me, that's what happened in Queensland.
I was going to say Peter Credlin, but she hasn't got a scrotum either in that sense. I know what you're saying.
Half the problem with people on the right is that they're already in business. They're already making good for themselves and for the people that they employ, etc. And it's hard to get people who are doing a lot better for themselves in business to give that up and go into the Liberal Party and get their hands dirty in a pool full of sharks, because that's what it is.
Well,
politics.
You put your family on the line as well. So there's a lot of
you lose all your privacy.
Yep.
You get attacked from all angles from everyone.
Yep.
And how many people want to do that?
Yeah,
if they're out there running some big business.
I also think that where the Labor win over the Liberals as well is if you look at the Liberal organisation as such. They do seem very, very aged, right? And to me, that is where you lose a lot of the, the younger generation that have maybe slightly different views. Not necessarily your left socialist type views on life, but those that might see a little bit of movement for progression and things like that, right? Like myself, I'm open to certain things, but at the same time, right, you need to understand the consequences and all that. And I think with the Liberals, there's so many aged people in there, and it just seems very dry. The marketing is very dry. They don't appeal to the right people, and they just get shat on all the time. It's a powerhouse, the Labor government, mate.
Oh, it is. But hey, I'm looking at this from an election, and we'll talk about the sort of council election campaigning as well. And I'm trying to do this. And I've actually been working on this for a year and a half. It was hard. To beat the incumbent was really hard.
Yep.
But right now, you've come and said about the scrotum thing. That could turn some of the women voters off. It could.
Yeah.
Right now you're saying that.
No doubt.
So Labor looks at every little demographic of where they're going to get votes from.
Yep.
I actually, in my council campaign, I wrote my wife's name. My first line. They say your first line's the most important thing. Probably the only person in Victoria that wrote their wife's name in there. And mate, my wife said to me, doesn't it make you sound like you're a bit of a wuss, putting my name in there? And I said, no. Well, I want to try and get that female vote. I'm not going to get a lot of the male vote.
Yep.
And I knew I was being heavily contested on the female side of things.
Yep.
And that worked for you, did it?
It did. Oh, got a lot of different little things. There was
That's funny because Maria told me that you didn't vote for you. Hello, Maria, if you're out there. She's the real boss of Stockman's Wines.
Yeah, well, it's at my anniversary today too.
Oh,
Eight
that's
years,
right.
yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Rich.
How many years has she been putting up with you now?
8 years of marriage. I'm married on the 10th of the 11th of the 12th, so easy to remember, Vince.
10th of the
10,
11th
11,
of the
12.
But the other day when I said I was coming in this morning, I forgot it. No. So, look, no, council elections are very, very important.
So you're old enough to be my great-grandfather, Richard, and I got married in 2011.
Great grandfather.
It's not 1912. Up to about 2012 I got married in. No, talking about council elections again, there were some campaigners that put in 50, 60 grand, all right? This is for just council elections, right? 50, 60 grand.
Of their own money.
Of their own money. So that's huge amount. So there's a lot on the line, and there's a lot of where I won it is I've been thinking about it for a couple of years now, and I've been doing little things here and there on my
set
spare
yourself
time
up, yeah.
to set myself up. And that's important because it's hard to beat that machine.
Yeah, we have been involved in the community for quite a while now.
Is that something
Yes.
that anyone looking to go to council or be put up for council needs to have behind them, that sort of money?
Well, yes.
Or can they do it on a shoestring budget?
Well, if someone else, if your competitor's got that money, do you reckon you can win on a shoestring? I mean, you've got to be pretty creative, don't you? So,
Yeah, well, I think if you're gonna win it on a shoestring budget, I think you've got to be completely invested time-wise.
To meeting people and getting around.
You've got to, yeah, absolutely. I think if you're going to do it without the money, you've literally got to forget your day job.
Well, you
and
can't sell a secret, so you've got to
Yeah.
promote yourself to some extent.
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed even in my area, there's all of the letterbox drops that you'd expect to come through your letterbox, Facebook posts.
Yep.
So a lot of them are using social media now, Facebook, Twitter, etc., to get through to their local people.
Yeah.
it's 100%. And it's been smart, like Adrian said.
Boards up on houses, of course.
You've got to be smart. This is where we've got the advantage. You're a smart man. If you look at most people your age, Ace, right? You're an alpha male. You're a smart guy in your bracket,
Yep.
right? So you should be able to beat anyone in your age group. But they've got assistance, they've got help from elsewhere, but you've got to use your smarties. A good example of me using my smarties is I knew they were going to attack me in certain areas. We're talking about education a little bit later today.
Yeah.
And I knew they'd attack me on education because I came out quite firmly. I'm against, at the time particularly, safe schools, moving in, infiltrating our younger kids.
Now, hang on. For those who may be listening right now, Richard is not against safe schools. There's a program that we have here in Victoria called the Safe Schools Program, which is not, as the name would suggest, anything to do with keeping your school safe.
Unsafe.
So when Richard says he's against
opinion.
safe schools, what he means is he's not for the Safe Schools Program, which is
The socialist infiltration.
allegedly an anti-bullying program, but really
Bullshit.
it's some, left-wing designed program to try and brainwash your children into accepting all sorts of other minorities into their world.
Yep.
Would that be the
What,
the best way
100%.
to describe it or not?
Look, now I am a counsellor, right?
Including transvestites, gays.
Well, that's it. No. Look, I'm all for who's going to want the best for the kids. Of course, it's the parents. So the less meddling, the better. Do you want someone else to control the thought patterns of your kids and what direction they're going to head in? Less and less. Now you want them to deliver and you mentioned, Adrian, before we started, we're going to talk about education. You mentioned about we're slipping in some areas, and we are, but we've got to focus on those basics. Same thing of council, same thing of anywhere around the world. We've got to focus on the basics.
Yep.
And get those up to scratch first.
Yeah, well, going into education, I think for me, there's lots. People probably think I'm a bloody dinosaur with my opinions, but this whole modern way of teaching that you see now in schools, calling Mrs. Jones, she now gets called Margaret, to me is fucking pathetic, right? And to me, that's where it begins. That's half the reason why these young kids these days hit teenage years and they have no respect for authority. They don't want to work and get told what to do because, again, no respect for authority. The transition, there's so many of
When
these.
we went to school, it was Mr. Smith, Mrs. Wilson.
Yeah, and it's not about being old
Yes,
school
miss,
and all
no,
these.
sir, et cetera. There's none of
you
that
teach
anymore.
respect from a young age, right? I do that to my own kids in my house. Okay, when we visit, they say hello. When we leave, they say goodbye. when we have a visitor over, they don't sit in their bedroom on their iPad or their computer, whatever it is. They're only little, but you know what I mean? And they're not going to do that when they're older. I won't put up with it. They come out, they engage in conversation, they learn to hold a conversation because one day, you know what? They've got to fucking work, mate.
And they've got to be able to interact with people.
And when you work, you need to fucking talk to people. And if you want to have a good job, well, you need to talk exceptionally well with people.
Yep.
All right? So to me, it starts there and I find it a massive problem. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Little things like that. The other thing I can't stand is how we make everything so easy for children these days. There's so many schools now that are prep to fucking year 12. You know why? Because they don't want to have that harsh transition of going from primary
Grade
school
6
to high
year
school to
7.
meet new children. Well, again, you know what? In the real world, you go from job to job. When you go from university and get a job, right? Guess what?
You got to meet new people.
You got to fucking meet new people, and you got to talk to them. Exactly. Isn't that amazing, boys? You've actually got to fucking talk to people. Is that? Oh, it's fucking incredible.
Oh, that's right. No,
Right? What are you
nail on the
teaching?
head.
Whoever implements these things, look, I'd love to know who you are. Actually contact us if you know someone who is in charge of these things. I want to actually speak with you
can I
and
ask
know
you this?
what your reasoning is.
Were these changes to how schools operate made because of pressure from the teachers or from parents? Because I think a lot of it comes from parents themselves. Yeah. There's a lot of parents that are protective of their children and they're very, sensitive to if little Johnny all of a sudden, doesn't feel comfortable or little Susie
I don't know that there's
feels a bit left out, and all of a sudden there's pressure. There's a lot more pressure from parents to protect their children, almost like helicopter parents. If helicopter parents that hover over their kids all the time. That I believe that's coming from there. Now, if you think that it's coming from the education department as well, I don't know.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think it's coming from the education department.
Look, I think it's both, and it's society too. But look, I'll give you one example. My good mate at the time, if I've lost touch with him now, but, Dennis Jonas, right? He's I hope he's listening now, but he's a Laylaw English teacher. He was at Laylaw High, pretty tough school,
Yep.
This is about maybe 15 years ago, so it's still a while ago. We're talking this is infiltrated, not just today and yesterday, but 15 years ago he was there teaching and he had a bit of an argument with one of the girls, right? He just said something, and she started yelling at him. Then she called her mum. Her mum came to the school. He said he listened on the loudspeaker. Mr. Hionis, can you come to the principal's office, please? He got called in the principal's office. The principal stood up for the girl and the mum. And he felt like he was most embarrassed, and he took a turn for the worst. Actually, he really did. He lost all sense of everything, and you don't understand that that's his job and that's what he loves doing. And but what happened there? I mean, he actually quit his job and
The principal?
No, the English teacher.
Oh, the English teacher, right.
Yeah, he went down.
Well, again, when I went to school, teachers were allowed to be pretty much as authoritative and as disciplinary as they felt like.
Yep.
Now, some people felt that went over the top. We used to have, the metre ruler across your backside and all these sorts of measures.
That went over the top.
Yeah, that's obviously.
No, but I mean, this is where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can't lay a finger on them.
I think the physical, discipline.
We had a teacher
think is definitely over.
We had a teacher who had a like a basket, and you had to pull out if you were naughty, you had to pull out. There were different sheets of paper in it, and you either had the cuts or you had the tips, with the metre ruler over your fingers, or you had a metre rule across your backside, or you had the knuckles, and he'd bang down on the top of your hand on a desk. And then he had the one that was called the show bag, which is one of everything. and these are the sorts of things that, that used to happen back in the 80s when I was at, high school.
Yep.
And everyone accepted it because it was part of keeping some discipline in the class.
And look how
nowadays, I wonder how much discipline there is in
Look how
class.
well Vince has turned out.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, where I went to school, in Coburg and that sort of area, I remember once going to the Coburg police station and I asked the sergeant there, I said, how long does it take to go from the Coburg police station to the Coburg railway station? And he said, we don't know yet. No one's ever made it. That's how rough it was in Coburg. But,
no, look, I understand.
in fact, Coburg Police Station's the only police station I know that's got a peephole on the front door.
I understand what you mean in terms of, whether it's coming from the parents or the teachers. My opinion with education side of things is I think it's the teachers, right? Because I see problems in where they're getting taught themselves. So they're going to universities, right? And I think the universities over the last few decades has been infiltrated themselves, and they're getting brainwashed with these lecturers and professors that have all these progressive views and
left-wing
right?
ideas. Yeah.
And that's where they're getting these modern ways of teaching, because it's no doubt some of these principals and teachers, these real modern teachers, right? Because it's still the old school teachers are still around, and they teach the way they used to, and they hate this modern shit.
Yep.
Right? And the proof is in the pudding. If the academic results every year showed a massive growth in terms of their results and the progress, mate, well, then I can't argue with it.
Yeah, we've slipped.
But we've slipped over decades. It's turning to shit, right?
And of course, you've got all of the participation awards for everyone that
right?
that everyone that competes
which
in the
I'll touch
local
on that.
swimming carnival or whatever it is.
Right? But
Everyone gets a medal.
and it's just
wrong.
To me. It's everything.
Well,
It is wrong because that's not real life, Richard.
Well, it was real life for me. It was like, I actually I got best team. I was the worst footballer on the team, right, back in Heidelberg, under 14, 15, under 16. But I got a trophy.
He's got more trophies than Luke Hodge.
I can't possibly imagine why.
No, I got a trophy every year, and I got best team play every year because I was But you value someone trying hard. I'd throw myself on the ball. I was the worst player, but.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about little kids at high school.
Okay.
We'll touch on that.
They all get a ribbon, even if they finish last. Now,
let's finish.
What does that mean to anyone?
Touch on on education again, and what you're talking about the control with the teachers. When I was about 12, I was a little bit of a thief. I stole a few things. Right?
Yep. We all were at some stage.
Yeah. A couple of coins, right? No, and I got caught by the school.
I used to work in a bank, Rich.
Yeah, and
the stationary cupboard was heaven.
Oh,
hang on, I've got a phone call here from the Millenbeck Council's ringing me saying,
no, I was only 12
have we
at the
got
time.
a thief that's just been put onto the council?
And it was actually the guy I was hanging around with. He was bad influence, and he actually left. And my mum said to me, hang around the smartest kid in the class the following year. So I looked up Zoran Jovanovski, smartest kid. My marks went up, didn't ever steal again. But getting back to the point of stealing, I stole something. I got caught by the school. I got penalised. My parents took me down to the Heidelberg police station, and there was a big sergeant there with a big mo, and he looked at me and he went like this, and I never stole anything in my life again. He scared the heck out of me. Fast forward to this day and age, Maria's son, my wife's son, and my son, my stepson, at 14 years old, he got a little bit angry, threw a tantrum, kicked the door down at home.
Yep.
Maria said, what do we do? I said, well, what do you want to do? So she actually called the police. 2 ladies came. Right? They must have been about 23, 24.
Yep.
2 really small little ladies. They came up, police women, they came up. They said, how are you going? They went in there. Finally, they came out and they said, I think he might be ready to say something. This is after about an hour. So it's just a total different method, And I don't know what he's
What
gonna,
lesson
He
does
wouldn't
that
have
teach?
expected the police to arrive. That's what it was.
he wasn't expecting, so he went quiet. But it didn't teach a good lesson. Sometimes you need a little bit of that fear. 12 years old, I had that big fear, and I got straightened out.
Well, I never got belted as a kid, but I certainly got smacked. If anyone wants to come and knock on my door because I smacked my kid on the ass, there is nothing wrong with it because kids need to learn. I learnt there's nothing wrong with me. Well, some would argue, but my opinion in terms of the education is that's where it stems from, right? Mm-hmm. It's making life too easy for kids. It is not good for them. They need to learn to transition. They need to learn discipline. They need to learn authority
as well. Right? They need to learn how to lose graciously, how to win with humility.
Yep. And how to lose with dignity.
And how to lose with dignity.
Yep, because
it's life.
It's
You're not going to win every time.
This wave through education, it's now coming into community sport. We saw 2 years ago when local sports, the rules
switch off the scoreboard.
Yeah. What's that about, mate?
That's rubbish.
Competitiveness is a great thing in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right? That's what teaches you to strive and be better, to have ambition, to succeed, to be better than the bloke that's half-assed and can't be bothered. right?
For those-
and there's nothing wrong with being
those
better
people that
than
don't
people.
know ProStar, and it's your business there, Adrian, and what the business has been about is having sports stars up there, and they've got some really great things they project, like David Park and these people,
Yep.
and that's what they've said about sports, and exactly what you're saying. You know, that message, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
to
well,
hear that.
because then what happens to those that have true potential to be elite one day? You know, you're being equalised by people that are, at the end of the day, I coach junior footy, okay? Now, I loved all my kids. I didn't have children at the time, so I taught because I've always loved helping children and all that, right? Me and my best mate did it. We loved it, had the time of our life. They taught me as much as I could teach them. But there was some kids there that were never going to play football, okay? They were just, the reality is they're never going to be good enough for that sport to reach an elite level. Right? We included them just as much as the others and all that type of thing. But to remove competitiveness and to think that they are equal, well, what fucking society are we in, mate?
Yep.
Okay?
ridiculous.
There is some at 9 years old where you look at them and they're freaks. And we had a couple.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, natural gift, right? If you believe in God, God-given talent, okay? And then you've got some others
But
that
they're being held back
They're
so that
playing,
so that the other ones
yeah,
can
they
keep up.
were participating and playing because you know what? At community level, it's all about the passion and love for sport and being with your mates and all that, and you have to include that. But you know, it doesn't mean that you detract from the ability that others have.
Yeah.
Right, and this is where it's at, taking away the scoreboard. Like, fucking hell. If children cannot deal with losing a game of footy, all right, whether it be by a goal or 10 goals, how are they gonna deal with rejection at a job interview?
But you're destroying society too. Like, not only, let's go back to me not being such a great footballer, right? What I did then was I practiced table tennis, and I became one of the best table tennis players in the school. So it's stopping those kids from exploring other. If you're going to keep giving them a ribbon and keep involving them in a sport that they're not good in,
Yep.
you know, I mean, if they still want to be the best, they can be the best in other fields, can't they?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, at a young level, yes, there's, participation, no doubt. As you step up, participation is not a thing anymore, mate. It's about you're good enough or you're not good enough. And it's the same in the workforce.
Well, do you remember when in the AFL they used to have the medals given to the players of the losing side?
Yeah.
Now, most of them didn't want them,
Yep.
and they threw them out.
Well, they wouldn't even know where they
A lot of
are.
them just threw it away. Even
Who
on the
even
ground.
wants it?
At the time, they just threw it away.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you that it was all or nothing. You either win or you don't win.
Yep.
We don't value these. You came second.
Yep.
Medals. It's certainly not at that age
No
of
doubt.
person. I mean, okay, swimming carnivals, you give a ribbon for first, one for second, one for third, but one for everybody.
Yeah, no,
that's
bullshit.
just not on. I don't see the value. It devalues coming first.
Yep.
Or coming second or third.
Yep.
If you're going to give everyone one.
Yep. It is, yeah. And I coached during
And it
the
goes
time.
against the natural human instinct to strive
Yes.
and to want to achieve and to, stretch your boundaries of what you're good at and try and reach even greater heights.
Well, that's the
That's
attack.
what I think-
Well, that's the attack by the left on anything that's
Yeah,
striving.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Anything that's thriving
That's-
or striving, they want to attack.
Yeah, they do because they want to remove that, that level of ambition.
Do you know what it comes down to?
Right.
Something I heard. I believe in equality of outcome.
Yep.
Actually, you know who it was? It was Kamala
I was
Harris
going to say
in
it
the
was
USA.
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
Right? Equality
Anything
of
like that'd
outcome.
come from him,
Now, that means that doesn't matter how hard you try or if you don't try at all, everyone has to end up
The same.
with the same amount.
Yep.
Now, surely what we want is equality of opportunity. Then what you do with that opportunity is up to you. If you have the opportunity to go to school, you have the opportunity to go to university, you have the opportunity to go to work.
Correct.
That's
Fine,
well said.
you're given the opportunity. But what you make of that opportunity is then up to you.
Correct.
Now, this is the typical socialist utopia that drives me bloody wild, is this equality of outcome crap.
Yep.
Because it actually brings down anyone who's trying to strive to be better
Well, there's
better
no
than they have been and better maybe than everyone else is.
Yep.
And it stifles their growth. It stifles their ambition. Why? Because everyone else has got to be on the same level.
Yep.
No, that's rubbish.
Well, and it
That's-
removes the
that's-
incentive, doesn't it?
Well, this is why socialism doesn't work. This is why communism doesn't work.
And looking some of those teachers from ProStar again, the people that are promoting what they're promoting, they're the elite in their field, and what they actually promote is hard work, discipline, all those good things. You know, now if somebody who's been elected in there, as you just said, then Vince, you just put in a position because of the equality of outcome. What are they going to promote? What are they going? What are they? What's
there to promote? That's right.
They're going to follow their system through that. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I find that ridiculous too.
Well,
and even, you know, back to the parenting side, I think this is where the problem is too. You know, whether it's school or sport, you know, when I chucked threw a tantrum playing footy, you know, yelled at the umpire because I had a sook. Mate, my old man, when I got to the car after the game, gave me the biggest hiding of my life.
Yep.
Because he ain't putting up with that shit.
Well, it's like
right?
when we went to school.
Now, this
if we
is
got
the
into
problem.
trouble, we were the ones that got into trouble by our parents.
Well, that's what I was going to
for
say.
upsetting
Right?
the teacher.
But with sport, like, look at the alternative. You end up with dickheads like Nick Kyrgios. What example are they setting for children?
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Couldn't
And
have put it better.
you know, chuck a tantrum, yet the parent will advocate for it.
Yep. Bernard
Right?
Tomic, another one.
Mate, I'm telling you now, if my son be an elite superstar or a local bloody player, if he acted like that, I don't care whether I was on live TV or not, he'd cop it from me, mate. Okay? There is no way in the world I would ever put up with shit like that. No. And it happens at school. When I used to go to parent-teacher interviews, okay? Mate, I'd be shitting bricks because my mum would be with me and whatever the teacher told her, the teachers generally aren't going to bullshit. If you're a little turd at school, they're going to tell your mother.
Yep.
So I'd be sitting with mum, they'd be dishing it out, telling the truth, because it was. I was a little shit, right? I'd be terrified to go home with her. The drive would be great. She wouldn't say a thing. The second you walk in the door, mate, out comes everything.
Comes a bit of language.
And then when Dad got home from the restaurant at midnight,
Wait till your father
Right.
get home. You wait, Adriano.
I mean, here I am fast asleep, right? Then you hear the little whisper. Mum's telling Dad what happened at the parent-teacher interview.
And then you hear his belt coming undone.
Yeah, you hear the door open and you'd cop it, right? But what did it do? Taught us lessons, okay? It's everything. It just, I don't know, to me, and I find the biggest problem, you know, looking at schools myself, Harvey goes to school next year, prep, and I was certainly one, you know, even with kinder, I wanted some old school values. I made sure it's Mrs. Jones, Mr. Smith, whatever it is. I was not going to send him to a school otherwise. I wanted a uniform, okay? Because, again, when you go to work, you can't go in a truckie,
Yep.
right? You got to look the part.
Yes.
You got a uniform, you need to fucking wear it.
Yep.
Okay? You're not going to, you know, rock up in a tracksuit and then just expect to have your job because that's what kids do these days, right? So I made sure that the school that I'm sending my child to had these old school values, and it happens to be that they're going to the same school I went to, primary school, right? But again, the teachers, there's so many teachers at a lot of these modern schools. To me, the problem is that they're not parents themselves, right? Now, I think, in my opinion, call me a dinosaur or not, yes, young people have to become teachers at some stage, and they might not have children, but they to me, they cannot be in a senior position at a school, right? Or, you know, take it from grade 3 and upwards or something when you need to start instilling some serious discipline. If you're not a parent, you have no right to hold that position, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? I think a prerequisite for some of these positions needs to be you need to be a parent.
So, in fact, I think a lot of people in the education sector would say it's not up to teachers to be parents. It's not up to teachers to parent your child or to teach them the things that they ought to be learning at home. They're there to teach the curriculum to each and every child.
Okay.
Now, they're not there
That's another
to
argument,
do
isn't it?
a job that you ought to be doing at home. Wouldn't that be a fair...
So I disagree with that.
Okay.
Right,
But is that a fair argument to make?
That's what the same safe schools that I've been talking about. The parents should be doing that. The teachers have been getting too much involved, I think, involvement. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you there. I don't think it should be up to teachers to parent children. They should have an idea of what to do to discipline them in the classroom.
Yep.
But it's not up to them to be teaching them
But
all the
Vince,
sorts
you've
of
got a
things that
busy
you ought to be
schedule,
teaching
all
them
right,
at
but
home.
most kids are at school a long time, aren't they? So
They are.
Well, I'm not talking.
They're there to learn.
I'm not asking them to
They're
parent.
not there to be children within a home environment. They're there to be children in a school environment.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they should be parents to.
I know what you're
parent
saying.
my child. I'm not talking about
what
that at
you're
all.
saying. If you loosen values at school and you start calling Mr. Jones Freddie, it's going to be hard to.
Well, yeah, like
combat that
I
at
think.
home.
I got taught by a number of teachers at school that weren't parents, and they were fantastic teachers. And I actually got along with nearly all of my teachers.
But so did I, Vince. Okay,
But because there was a mutual respect, because I treated them respect, and it should always come from the child first, by the way. The respect should come from the child, and if that child shows all of the respect that they should, what the teacher should then do is treat that child accordingly.
Yep.
If they're not receiving that level of respect by a rat bag, well, then the rat bag can't expect the teacher, to then necessarily treat them with any great deal of respect either.
Yep.
But the parenting issues are for home. Schooling and educational issues are for the classroom.
Okay. So I don't mean that I expect them to parent my children, right? And
You want them to have the benefit of having been parents.
Correct. My favourite teacher that I went to, well, she was my primary school teacher, and I still keep in touch with this to this day.
Yeah.
Right? And it's funny. It's going to be Harvey's teacher as well. She was only young. I think she was early 20s.
Then she'll know what to expect. Won't she?
She was only early 20s, so she wasn't a parent. But schooling back then was very different.
Yeah.
The problem I've got is now, and I've seen it. My sister's a teacher.
Yep.
Right, and she'll probably argue with me too, because she may be one of these modern ones. I don't know, but I find the problem is now. Okay, with young people now are very different to what they were back then.
Yeah.
The younger teachers back then had still traditional old school
values,
views.
yeah.
Okay, that were very good in school,
Yeah.
but now that's changed. A lot of the young people now, not all of them. I'm not referring to all. I'm just saying a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're very airy-fairy, and I see it with my sister's school, okay? The discipline, she's got some children there that run wild. Like the school goes into lockdown because they're throwing things around. Now, their punishment is to go into the staff room with an iPad. Like, what's that about? So the kid's behaving, look at the child who hasn't been, who sent the school into lockdown because he's throwing chairs around.
And he got rewarded by going to the lunchroom and playing on
That's
his
what I
iPad.
hate, okay? And this is where being a parent, you have to learn how to discipline and how to control,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where being a parent as a teacher can have extraordinary benefits.
Okay.
All right? The other issue you raised there about the role of a teacher, okay? And I actually wanted to raise this in one of our first episodes because a friend of mine who is a teacher, an acquaintance of mine, I went to school with her. She posted something about teachers, okay? And it was a whole bloody letter or something. I think some teacher somewhere wrote this letter, and it's about, it was during the COVID time, about, first you wanted us to go to school and go to university and become a teacher. You wanted to educate your children. Then you wanted us to be parents, and then you wanted us to be counsellors, and then you want us to be this and that and this and that. Like, let us just teach, okay? Well, for those people that think that way, right, you might disagree with me, Vince. Mm-hmm. A child is at school for what, 6 hours a day? For 13 years of their life?
Yep.
You see them a lot more than we as parents see our children through those 13 years.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The teachers I remember fondly are those who taught because it was a passion to teach,
Yes.
a passion to instill growth
And knowledge.
and life lessons into children.
Yep.
That is the same reason why I chose to coach a football club, junior football club, under 9s, under 10s and all that when I didn't have children, right? Because I feel strongly about what I can offer to those kids moving forward. Hopefully they can carry some of the lessons I taught them in life more so than the way I taught them to kick, okay? Now that to me, those teachers that I remember, it's because that's what they did for me.
Yep. Look,
When I had tough times at home for whatever reason or mentally, they were there not to be my parent, but to be my guardian because that's what they are. All right. Now, in my opinion, If you don't want any of that, then you're in the wrong job.
Not 100%. Well, we've got to move on to US elections, but just with that, what you're saying there, old school values, well said there. And I think at every podcast, I learn the most of anyone here. I come along here and I sit in the back. No, very well said what you said there. And I think we need to bring that back, old school values.
Look, like you, the best teachers I ever experienced were the ones that connected with you and had that passion for wanting to see you do well, wanting to see you grow, both educationally and
But the lefties think they're doing that too. But you've got to be strong too. You've got to have respect and you've got to have all that as well.
What worries me about the education system is what is the real agenda? What are they putting into the curriculum that's designed to brainwash kids, to indoctrinate them with left-wing thinking, and it's just got to stop. It's gotten out of control.
It's too fluffy.
Okay, my own daughters come home. One of my daughters, year 9, and the stuff that she comes home with sometimes, I'm just about ready to go into that school and shake the trees because of some of the things that I hear. But that's got to stop. That indoctrination from teachers who have got a left-wing leaning politically, and they try just in the slightest and subtle ways to influence their own class in that way of thinking. And I just don't like it. It should be politics should be left out of the classroom.
It's a well-oiled machine, Vince. And now we're going to move on to US elections. This is a well-oiled machine.
US elections. Wow.
What a week.
Wow. What do we say about the US elections? All I can say is this. If you cannot see that there has been a massive fraud on the American public,
Wake up.
right? You are a blind lefty, okay? You don't want to see it. You don't want to know about it. You just want Trump out the way. You can't stand him because of how he looks and how he sounds and how the way he talks, because his achievement is as long as your driveway to write down. In 3.5 years, what that man has achieved for America is amazing, okay? Yep. And if you want me to take up 10 minutes of this podcast going through each one of them, I don't think you do, but that's how long it would take, 10 minutes, right? He has been hounded from the day he even put himself up as a candidate, let alone when he got elected.
Yep.
Now, the so-called president-elect Joe Biden, because the media, the left-wing owned and dominated media, want to impose Joe Biden on everybody, right? Now it's all over the world. You've got world leaders ringing him up saying, congratulations. It's not over.
Just like they imposed Barack Obama on everybody. It is not over,
I guarantee you. I guarantee everyone listening to this podcast, this is not over. There is a shitload of evidence of massive fraud on a scale never seen before in the history of the USA. Okay? We're talking about computer programs that count votes, that automatically count them in favour of Biden by a 3% margin, doesn't matter who's got the votes. And that happened right throughout some of the states. We're talking about massive amounts of ballots that came in at all sorts of hours of the morning. Republican observers who were meant to be able to scrutinise over these votes were shut out. They were not allowed in. Yep. They put up even pizza bloody cardboard over the windows so that people couldn't secretly record what they were doing in there. That is not transparency. Okay?
Well, it's not democracy.
And it's not democracy, and it's certainly not the democracy that 71 million people that voted for Trump, and by the way, it's probably more than that because there's a lot of Trump votes that actually got destroyed.
Well, they got burnt.
Right? So
thrown
this
out.
should have been a landslide victory to the Republicans. It should have been a victory of all proportions that Trump should have been able to enjoy. Okay? This has been hijacked. Anyone who tells me that the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, who went to rallies where he couldn't even get a car park full of people, okay, what, he all of a sudden got more votes than Barack Obama in 2012 or 2008, I should say? No way. Not a chance in the world.
Yeah.
If Trump won like this, if Trump decided to employ people that were going to cheat and computer programs that were going to manipulate votes in states, I'd be saying the same thing. No way, no, this is a disgrace. That's no way to win.
Yeah.
He should be disqualified. I'd be saying that.
And so would the rest of the world.
But isn't it funny how it's always the left?
Yeah,
it's always the bloody left wing in every case.
What's your opinion?
Written and spoken by Vince Lochisano for the Republican Party in America.
No, Vince, I actually think, Ace, we should be revisiting this, because if all of that just goes to nothing, because that's what I'm afraid.
Is that the sort of system we'd like to have here?
I'm not afraid.
Where someone can just blatantly cheat and get away with it?
They do, Vince.
Adrian, the mainstream media, at the moment, they are an absolute, and I don't use this word very often on our podcast, they are a fucking disgrace. They have tried to impose this on the public. They've announced all sorts of things. That Biden's been elected, and it's almost like, yep, nothing else to see here.
Yep.
They are a fraudulent bunch of hacks. There's only one or two very minor exceptions in America, like Newsmax is one, that can be trusted in their coverage, right? Even Fox News has gone the other way with the ex-Biden guy now running the show down there.
Yeah.
So that's gone to the trash can as well.
Yeah. This is the other thing that we've spoken about it for so many episodes, but what I can't get out of people, all right, whether it's, we're talking about Dan Andrews here or Anastasia Palaszczuk or, for that matter, Kamala Harris and President-elect Biden, right? I want to hear from someone from all three of those parties as an example. What is the reason? And I'm not having a go. This isn't a sarcastic dig at anybody, right? I genuinely want to get it, because in all this time, right, I haven't had a valid reason for someone actually supporting any of these people. There's no genuine valid reason, right?
There's one valid reason that they'll give
No. I'm talking about from people that I speak to.
Yeah,
not
there's
one of
valid
them.
reason. Get rid of Trump. That's
Right.
all. They just don't want to have Trump
Yeah, but I'm
anymore.
talking about Andrews. I'm talking about Palaszczuk.
Okay.
I haven't been able to get a response out of anybody. I've asked people, right? Oh, no, he seems nice. Works hard, right? Comes to press conference every day. And Biden, oh, look, he seems like a nice little old man. Old man, what's that going to do for you? Well, when I speak to people and I ask people here, leave a comment on this episode. When we post this episode, leave a comment here. I want to know why it is. And I'm not having a go at anyone. We'll discuss it and we can, even talk about it on a podcast. Even invite you to jump on if you've got some strong views on it.
Well, if you're not listening to this podcast and you're not watching Sky News, how would you know, Adrian? You're getting fed information from
you can't,
ABC, as you say.
That's right, because unless you've got, the money in your budget to pay for Foxtel. Right?
And this is how they manipulate the minds of the public, which is what you're saying the public is dumb.
Right.
Yeah, so one of the things you said earlier
Yeah, but the public is dumb because they let themselves... I don't let myself be manipulated, okay?
Well, it's not all the public. It's about half.
Right, but that's fine. But what I'm saying, to me, that's stupidity. That's what stupidity is. Mm-hmm. They want you to be stupid.
Yep.
The more stupid they can make people, the better it is for them, right? So it's not about blaming them.
So
You've got to blame yourself as well. I don't listen to fucking 6 o'clock news or The Project because I'm not stupid enough to listen to that shit. I don't want to be stupid enough to listen to that shit.
This is a good test that you've got. So people contact us and find out why.
Yeah, I want to know why.
That's good.
What if you not? There's a lot of people that support Trump and those that are against, and that's fine. We're not here to have a crack at people with genuine views. The problem I've got is that I haven't got anyone that supports these people with a genuine view. You ask them, they're all, I love Dan, but why? Oh, he's done a good job through COVID. Go tell that to the fucking families of the 800 people that are dead. Go tell that to all the hundreds of businesses that have shut their doors and lost their fucking homes and have no home for their children. Mm-hmm. Okay? Go tell that. You support Palaszczuk. Again, go argue that with the people that were denied access to see their fucking dying family and relatives. Okay? Go ask those people. Debate it. Don't just throw your opinion around and hang shit on those that seem to be right-wing or are right-wing. Because I'll tell you one thing about the right wing, it should be called the fucking common sense wing.
Correct.
Okay? Because there ain't no common sense coming from the left.
No, that's true.
Right? So if you do support them, good on you. You've got the right to vote, good on you. But I just love to know why. If you're going to have a crack at me because I support Trump, right, tell me why you don't. Because I tell you what, I can fucking tell you why I do.
And good way to leave it too, because next week, of course, we're going to be talking mental health, aren't we?
Yeah,
we don't even know about that area, do we?
No, well, that's another thing that the strain they've put on mental health, and that I want to talk about it. All right, so we're actually going to get an expert from the Mental Health Foundation of Australia on the podcast next week, and we're going to have a good chat to him and get a real insight into what they're seeing, what they're dealing with, and what feedback is coming from experts and doctors as well. And on that, we're also going to try and get someone from the hospitality industry on and talk again about what strain they've had in the business world and how they're trying to move forward.
Well, boys, I think that probably wraps it up for this week.
Well, it does, yeah. It does.
And there's been a lot to cover, but we could cover the US election even more, but everyone's probably had all of the detail around.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on it next week. I think another week between
it's going to, believe me,
might
just like
open
it
up
did
another
20
can of
years
worms.
ago. Just like it did 20 years ago, this will go through the courts. Al Gore was nominated president-elect for well over a month back then, before it was all brought to the Supreme Court, and eventually, I think it was early December, before it was eventually resolved that, in fact, George Bush got over the line in Florida, which was the key state that decided the election back then, and George Bush ended up staying for 8 years.
The good thing for America is that it is Donald Trump, and he doesn't back down from a fight.
God help America, because I think the people who are currently chanting in the streets and celebrating will become very, very violent, and they'll probably want to destroy everything in sight, because that's the way of the left. That's the only way they know how to handle disappointment. To throw
tantrums.
to throw the toys out of the cot, and to set everything on fire. Bring in the military and show them a fucking lesson, because they fucking will deserve it.
And can I just say on that, if you have a look at the footage of that,
and you know what they want to do now?
What age demographic are they?
Oh, they're all the youngies, mate.
Yeah, the youngies. So are they? Is that back to what I was talking about before?
Yeah, Antifa,
right?
Antifa, the left wing terrorist groups.
Make the link.
Black Lives Matter, all of them. Those terrorist groups.
There's certainly no intellect amongst those people.
Can I ask you something? How many cities have been destroyed since Joe Biden has been nominated by the left-wing media as the president-elect? No. How many cities have you seen catch fire? How many businesses have had their windows destroyed? None. Nothing.
I think there is intelligence, but I think it's just brainwashed.
It's not intelligence because it's not their own mind. It's not their own mind being made up. How's that intelligence?
No, they're just brainwashed. They're intelligent, but they're brainwashed.
No. They've been brainwashed to just react that way. We're going to go out and destroy everything. Okay? They're told by their little chant leaders to go out there and destroy everything. Okay? They haven't got a mind of their own. They just follow the leader. They're like sheep.
I reckon you get the right systems in, and that's what we're trying to do. We get the right systems in, and the world's a better place. They're still intelligent, but they're in the wrong system.
Do you remember the howling and the wailing and the demonstrations and the cities that were set on fire 4 years ago when Trump got elected?
Yeah.
Right? And do you know what you're hearing from the left now? Led by Joe Biden himself. Oh, come on, now's the time to put the weapons down. Now's the time to be nice to each other. We've got to stop all of this rhetoric, where we are enemies with each other. We're all Americans. Well, what a crock. You people have not let Donald Trump a minute of peace for 4 years. You've been as destructive as possible. You've had a Russian interference hoax for 4 years. You've impeached him on bullshit grounds. And now you expect that because you're allegedly elected, that now the other side's got to just give in and be nice and placid about it.
Oh, Americans aren't like that, though.
Fucked.
Yeah, no, they won't do that anyway.
No way do they deserve that. And I don't think Republicans should back down. Yep. And I'll tell you one thing, this is not over. Not over by a long shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's leave it there. We didn't get to speak too much about the local councils and your opinion on where their focus should be and where it isn't. But on the next episode, we'll actually open with that, Richard. So we'd love
Councillor Stockman?
Yeah, we'd love to get your opinion on the troubles that they've had over the past few years and where the focus has kind of deterred from where it should be, and that is rates, roads and rubbish. So we'll get your opinion on that in the next episode. But again, hopefully we've had an enjoyable episode today and you've got a good listen out of it. And again, some strong opinions, but that's what it's all about. It's our opinions that you just want to hear, I suppose. So again, thank you very, very much, and stay tuned for future episodes. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thank you very, very much.
See you, Ace. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Political Spin. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Stay connected. Follow us on social media at Beyond Political Spin.